Nice.
Just make sure everything is good to go.
So you do more in person than remote interviews?
I prefer in person, honestly.
Well, I get that, but how many people are able to fly across the country?
I mean, not too many. Like, honestly, the people that don't live within the tri-state area, I'll either just wait until I'm going to their city or wait for them to come to New York. And then from there, it's just like, hey, let's just link up and do a cover, or just link up, have some drinks, and we'll do the interview. And
so you'd rather do that? You'd rather just like wait until you're physically there in person than to do it remotely?
You see, here's my thing.
That's really interesting. I'm learning all sorts of things today.
Yeah, like for me, I prefer the in-person.
By the way, I prefer to talk to you through this than like that. It's like butter. It's like
it's just right
clarity,
there. You don't have to like think too hard. It's all there.
I'll take this with me when I walk upstairs. Yeah.
But yeah, like I would rather the in-person interviews as opposed to like, I don't know, like doing it remotely. Only because remote interviews, there's a delay. They're not that fun. It doesn't feel like a natural conversation due to the delay. And it's just like when I do like video interviews, I know that I'm not being my full authentic self, you know?
Well, yeah, I totally get that. I mean, it's pretty admirable that you go to such great lengths, but I mean, honestly, I connect my phone to this what's this app? Ivy Cam. I don't even know if it's frankly secure. So Ivy Cam, it's literally free, and there's no latency, and you can connect it to OBS, and the audio's almost perfect. I mean, I can even send you some samples.
Got you. Yeah, send me that if you can. Just try to talk into the mic as much as you can.
Okay. Just didn't want to spit on your mic. I'm generally sensitive about when people.
Yeah. Asher, come on, man.
I'm making out with my mic. You know what I mean?
Come on, man. You're in the same space, man.
I'm a space kind of guy. How's that? Man. Is that good?
That's perfect.
The hisses?
I don't hear any hisses. Do you hear any hisses?
No. I mean like the S. Oh
no.
The pleasant hisses. Yeah. The highs and the lows. The detail.
There you go. You're good.
That's what I mean.
You're good. Man.
I'm a studio guy.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, welcome to the Matt Violinist podcast. We are here with a very, very special guest. I'm going to let our guest introduce himself.
You're not talking about me, are you?
Yes, I am talking about you, sir.
Well, she's great here too. My name is Asher.
Who are you?
Would you like to introduce yourself? No,
Absolutely not.
She's shy.
Let her be shy.
I'm camera shy.
All right. Well, it's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Matt, thanks for having me here. This is a pleasure. Just sitting in this studio and hearing you through these beautiful mics.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
In the wine cellar, kind of romantic.
Don't get any ideas.
Yeah, my name is Asher, like I mentioned, and I'm an electric violinist, composer, producer, live performer, and schmoozer, professional schmoozer.
That's part of our job too.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying it. It's good. I like to shoot the breeze. I like to talk to people who are kind of like-minded, and that's me in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you get into the violin?
My mother claims that I chose it because I looked up to my older brother, who's about 6 years old, who played violin. Was doing concertos and everything, and I just thought, hey, Mom, I want to play that. So I was about 2.5. It was probably way too intense to start that young. Started on Suzuki on a little box violin, rubber band serving the strings just to get the fingering. And then when I was like 3, I had these little acoustic violins, kind of grew through the Suzuki method. And, it's sort of just learned the
traditional classical rap.
Yeah,
so,
the stuffy classical rap.
Yeah.
And I kind of let that, I'm not going to say that I let that go, but I kind of shifted a little more into popular hip-hop, improvisation, so on and so forth by high school.
Got you. So before we move on to high school, you said that you thought that 2 was too tender of an age to pick up the violin.
I think it was a little intense. I have some tough memories as a child learning the instrument. Many days crying over the etudes at a pretty young age. I guess it depends on what you can handle.
You see, I started at 9. So I started pretty late in the game, if you ask me personally.
I wouldn't say that's late.
Honestly, you know what it is? The training that I had, I'm not saying that it didn't suffice for where I was at that time. But as you know, the classical field is super competitive. So if you want to compete,
That's why I don't compete.
Exactly. That's why I don't compete either, because I don't know, man. It takes
why play the game?
Exactly. To me, not to say that classical training doesn't help, but it's like for the sake of competing, the earlier the better, you know? So it was just interesting that you say that, because I always tell people the exact opposite. Like I have people come up to me all the time saying that like, oh, I have my 3-year-old, he wants to start playing. I don't know if he's too young. I'm like, listen, as difficult of an instrument and as finicky of an instrument as the violin is, the earlier you put your son on, the better.
It's true in a sense. I agree. With respect to fingering and training, if you're in my situation, you have health problems, it is not ideal. I've had tremendous strain on my spine and on just my spinal alignment over the years, since, you know, we're talking formative developmental years, like your back's kind of tilted, especially the upper cervical part of the spine. So that's my 2 cents.
I don't want to dig. If I pry too hard, you can always tell me to you could just say uncle.
I'm an open book.
Scoliosis? Like what is the condition?
Yeah, I mean that's the word that comes to mind. I haven't been diagnosed specifically with that, but when you're, as you know, when you're in this sustained kind of position holding the instrument up, and you already have weak muscles to begin with, weak back muscles, and nobody's telling you how to fix that, because you know your teacher isn't a physical therapist, doesn't know any better. You just it kind of starts to hyper contract. So you hyperextend the muscles by the rib cage, I guess, and hyper contract above by the shoulder. So the muscles sort of get a little bit larger than they should be, for lack of a better description. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's
start
funny
to get inflamed.
It's funny too. I tell people all the time, if you pick up that instrument, pick up the violin, your body, you have to commit everything to it. Yeah. Your body's gonna change. Like literally, like even when I'm in like a relaxed mode, my shoulders come in now instead of like just being perfectly aligned and everything. So that was just interesting, because any violinist, any violist that I know, we all have some sort of back issue. Some sort of back issue, some sort of major tension issue.
And for what?
The instrument steals our soul. That's what it is.
It does. That's right.
Yeah. You said that you was crying practicing those etudes. I'm like, oh man, I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
Yeah, long hours, and it wasn't even long hours compared to these kids who go to Juilliard. I mean, a bunch of my friends, a bunch of my peers went there, and they ended up as teachers.
Yeah, that's not my calling.
That's a whole nah. I keep getting calls, and I'm just like, nah. Maybe like when I'm 90.
90.
I'm gonna stick to the performances as long as I humanly possibly can. But I was saying something in regards to, before I dozed off there.
No, it's fine. You were jumping into
the spinal alignment.
I think you were jumping into middle school or high school.
Yeah, I was saying a bunch of stuff, but I mean, no, but you were mentioning the classical and then moving into like improv. I don't even.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Where were we going with that?
It's fine. It's fine, man. We're human, man. We jump around with these conversations all the time.
I just have so much to share in such a short period of time, especially with you, because like you understand where I'm coming from, and it's kind of cool talking to somebody who like understands the physical and even emotional strain of the instrument.
There's a major emotional strain.
Yeah,
major.
Those aside from the etudes, it's like Paganini. Oh my God. It's just painful on the arms and the fingers. Honestly, I stopped at a point.
Most times it's painful in the eyes first. People don't understand how intimidating music can be just off the sight of it. So you look at the first few measures, then you look at one part where you just see all black lines. You're gonna be flying through these passages. Look at the tempo. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The sight reading can be challenging for sure. I mean, I like the challenge of sight reading. I found that there's too much like kind of just by the book type of performance, which is one of the reasons why I kind of left ensembles and the orchestras, and don't really anticipate going back. Even though really what inspired me initially was my aunt and the Boston Symphony. I kind of like wanted to be like her. But there's something kind of cool. It's not just egocentricity related, wanting to play on my own or wanting to play with like a smaller group. It's also the feeling that I want I want to bring something new. I don't just want to be like expensive wallpaper at an event. I want to like bring something that's unique that people actually want to hear, like original music or my original take on a cover, or just like an original presentation that, hey guys, here's a violin that is different than what you're typically accustomed to seeing. Here's an electric violin. Here's like an LED. Here's a violin that fits within the context of popular music, top 40s, electronic music,
right,
jazz, hip hop. Like here's a musical performance you have never heard before, because it is by nature, it is improvisation by definition. It is not reading off sheet music. It's different every time.
Every single time. And it's crazy too. So essentially what you're saying is, instead of bringing everybody back to, a classical era, we're bringing the music, the classical instrument, into our interpretation of the modern era.
And you know what's funny about that? There are actual haters out there.
Of course there are.
Have you noticed them? You probably have.
Of course I do.
I don't think the fans do, but like we do.
The number one hater starts with professors.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I get maybe because they see it as somewhat of a challenge to what they're doing, the theory. I don't see it that way. I see this as an extension, as like an adaptation to modern music.
There was only one professor that really embraced the fact that I didn't stick to the script. And again, I understand why they want you to stick to the script, but how can I say it? Aside from just learning the instrument, I think the part that's most important about playing the violin or any string instrument is your interest to want to play. You see? So it's just like seeing that somebody has a potential of 10. This is like how I see it. I had a potential of 10 out of 10, right? That's what my professor saw. So I think in order to get me to stick to the instrument, they need to bring that potential down to my level, how I see it. So at that time, that might have been a 3, right?
Interesting.
So if you don't bring it down to the 3, now my interest level might completely dissipate, because you're trying to get me up here so high. Not to say that I can't get there, and I won't, but it's just like my interest isn't at a 10, it's at a 3. Do you know how to relate to me at my level for somebody that you're trying to keep on this instrument?
I tell people all the time, like it is, especially aspiring musicians, violinists. I tell them, like, if you want to learn and like have an inner drive and feel passionate about the music and not have somebody just shoving it down your throat, which is the worst possible way to learn. You should really you find music that you feel an affinity towards.
Right, but the part that's tough now is that's your responsibility. That's the student's responsibility. For a student that doesn't know that your interest is essentially on you, why isn't exploring new genres, new avenues of this instrument? Why isn't that part of the curriculum? You see what I'm saying?
Because it is, in the words of some, sacrilegious. Have you ever heard that phrase?
Sacrilegious, blasphemous. I've heard it all.
I love that.
I've heard it all.
Whenever I see like a bot post like a comment on like my Instagram or my Facebook, something like, that's sacrilegious. I'm like, okay. Do you have something else better to do? Like, yeah, the violin is not under my chin. That's my favorite. Like, it should be under your chin. Like, people get so angry, And it's like, well, first of all, you don't know my history. You don't know my back history. You don't know my history of adrenal insufficiency. If you did, you probably wouldn't say that. The other thing is, it's a blessing that I don't have to hold it, that I can still play classical or still play real fast jazz and not have to hold it under my shoulder, under my chin. And some of the most talented musicians I know do not hold it under their chin. And they went to conservatory, they're classically trained, they do all that stuff. Because the whole the original invention of the violin, it's just such a strain. It's such a hassle to the back.
It's not natural. It
shouldn't be that way.
It's not a natural instrument to play at all.
It's not. All. So like, people should be a little more forgiving.
You think so?
People or institutions that are pushing that like notion of, okay, you're challenging the conventional classical world, and therefore this is sacrilegious.
And it's just like, it's really not. I'm just not doing
we're keeping violin alive is what we're doing.
Of course. Because it's just
which
like,
they should appreciate.
What is the point of me picking up that instrument if I can't interpret anything the way that I see it? Everything has to stick to the script?
I don't think there would be enough listeners. I don't think people have enough patience or attention span, honestly, to listen to traditional classical, Mozart, Bach, as beautiful and as ingenious as they are. There aren't enough people, especially with like the competition out there with the major labels, the music that they're pushing. So it's like, you want to keep the instrument alive, show the versatility of the instrument, bring it into the other genres.
Right. I agree. I agree, because it's just like, I was born and raised listening to reggae, soca, dancehall, classical music. I listened to an array of music, but not until I paired the violin to reggae, soca, dancehall, hip hop, and R&B that I was just like, this is actually pretty cool. And what's crazy is too, your audience will show you whether or not it's valuable or not right away.
I think, yeah, and also I think they'll the more they hear and the more they see it, I think the more of an affinity they'll have towards it, and they'll feel like, okay, we don't necessarily need to hear vocals all the time.
We don't. We really don't.
No, we don't.
We definitely don't. And it's go ahead.
Yeah, no, I want to hear what you're going to say, but also because it's like part of my argument in that is why do you need somebody to tell you a narrative for a song? Why can't you project your own narrative onto a song? I think there's a beauty to that.
I agree. I definitely agree. Do you go back and forth with those kind of people, Asher? Like,
I think you could tell that I do. Well, no, I don't know. No, I don't give them lip. That kind of thing.
Does it bother you internally though?
Yeah. It shouldn't. I should just be happy doing what I do. I guess I go there because I want people to feel. I don't see a universal passion for the instrument. I see it as like niche, and I really want to see more of like an enthusiasm for the instrument instead of like this like add-on to like a performance. But tell me your thoughts.
No, it's interesting hearing the internal battles of another violinist, because I have them too.
Okay. Oh,
you know, I definitely have them too.
Okay.
For me, you know what I've been telling people for like the last month. Hatred is probably one of the best things to motivate you to get to do something. It's not a good guider. Hatred doesn't guide you well, or like hatred or disappointment, anything. Things of that nature, hatred, disappointment, frustration, it's great to motivate you to get started to do something. So even with small comments like what you're referring to, I've had people say snoot comments all the time to me too. So it's just like, you know what?
There's haters with every genre of music.
Yeah, but
you see that with every performer.
It is a motivation though. It motivated me to essentially, for lack of better terms, like have my foot on the neck of people as far as like what I put out, how hard I go, how often you see me.
That evokes really intense images.
No, but it's the truth.
No, because it just makes me think of
It's really the truth, and it's so funny that you said that too, because there's a handful of people that have this idea, this preconceived notion of who I am because I play the violin, and then when they hear me speak, and if they hear me speak or eavesdrop on a conversation, they're almost like taken back by it. Like, I thought you were like a gentleman and everything. I'm just like, who the hell told you that? I just happen to play an instrument that's circled around like goodness, if you will, but I'm still a regular human being. I'm still just like you do.
Interesting.
I'm ranting now. I don't want to rant.
No. I like hearing ranting,
but
I've been doing it all week.
Listen, man, I get it.
But that being said, the whole vibe that I try to give off is love, appreciation. I mean, even some of my biggest fans are like hypercritical, which is weird. It's like they'll buy my merch, but like if I post something that's like slightly, like about, I don't know, slightly not even controversial, just people get offended really easily. How do you
feel? What are your thoughts on criticism, unsolicited criticism?
I solicit criticism, but like meaningful, not like hater criticism, not like, oh, that's sacrilegious kind of stuff. It's like I invite critiques so that I can play and produce music for my listeners. Otherwise, why am I doing this? Otherwise, I just play a bunch of corporate events, which I do anyway, for people who could care less about, the music. It's just background, kind of.
Got you. I'm.
That's not where my passion lies.
Yeah. See,
passion lies is with the listeners, with the people who want to hear the music.
The only reason why I ask, because a lot of people have things to say about what I do and how I do it, and how I take criticism. So there have been multiple cases where people will come up to me, DJ side or violin side, like, oh, I want to offer you some critiques. I'm just like.
So it depends on how they're delivering the critique.
No, for me, I don't think it depends on that. I'm not saying that they have no valuable information. For me, the people that I allow to critique me are the people that I select. See what I'm saying? It's just like, okay. And these aren't people that just.
What are your thoughts? I
think about it this way. Like, I have coaches. You see what I'm saying? If I'm an actual basketball player, I have a coach. I listen to my coach. I'm not necessarily listening to the thousands of people in the stands. Although you might love the game, you might not see it from the same perspective of somebody who was at one point played it and understands how to play this game from a X and O standpoint. You see what I'm saying?
True.
So in my head, I'm just like, I don't even want to listen to you. Not to say that you don't know what you're talking about, but it's just like.
So if somebody's like, do you think, we're at a cocktail here, we want to speak, could you please lower the volume? Like that's a different story. That's like, okay.
I tell them no.
Please.
I tell them no. I tell them no right to their face. I don't
start an argument. I'm just like, okay, sure, but the person paying the bill is really.
But that's my point.
I'm listening to.
They've paid me to hear me.
Yeah. The person that says something like that is they're just there to network, they're not there to listen to your music. So that's a different story. If it's something like, somebody who's an enthusiastic listener doesn't like certain style of music you played, like I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt. I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna kind of incorporate someone into my repertoire. I want to sort of factor it in. It's helpful to take surveys. That's what companies do. That's what businesses do. And they adapt accordingly. They don't listen to everybody, but they adapt accordingly.
So it's tough for me. That's so tough for me.
I know, and it's tough for me. But it's a learning, developing game for me because I realize that it's like there's a lot of music I don't want to play, but if there's demand for it and there's people who would pay attention to me and would buy my music or stream my music or share it, it's worth sucking it up a little bit, even if it's painful.
I guess it depends on what lens you're looking at it at. Like for me, because I'm assuming you're looking at it from a business kind of move.
I mean, you have to. It's if you're doing it full time.
I don't think you have to. I really don't think so.
You don't have to see it as business?
Not completely. Because what's the business if I'm not being my authentic self? You weren't drawn to me because I was being the variation of me that you wanted me to be. I was being myself the entire time.
Well, but when it comes to a client, you're doing what they're asking you to do, right? Because they're paying the bill.
Well, that's part of the reason why we have consultations. I'll tell them if there's something that I'm not comfortable doing. I'm like, listen.
Yeah,
I'll do everything else, but this here,
this is trash.
Yeah, that's just not. It doesn't scream at Violinist. It doesn't have much melody to it. I can't really cover it.
You're right.
You see what I'm saying? And it's like on top of that, it's not me.
You're right. And
my analogy to it is this: you wouldn't hire the Wu-Tang Clan to do Bach's greatest hits.
You went hire the Wu-Tang Clan to play
Bach's greatest hits. Do you see what I'm saying? You want Wu-Tang to come out to be Wu-Tang.
Okay, right. So I find bad suggestions to be irritating. So I'm going to give you that for sure. And there are a lot of bad suggestions. Not as much my listeners on like when I go live on Facebook, for instance. I mean, they're not like amazing suggestions all the time. Some of them are pretty good. The worst, sir, if that's a word, suggestions I'm going to say are.
It's okay. I'm not judging him.
I can't think of it.
We're violators. We mess up all the time. I'm not judging you.
Well, I do. I don't know about you. They, that are usually from the clients. Like, well, how about this? But generally, my clients are pretty sensitive. Anyway, but I'm talking about more like in the context of a concert. I want to know generally. I'd like to try to get a survey, if that's possible, of the people who are there, because like they're there to solely focus on you. You don't want to just play to a dead crowd.
I have so many theories on this when it comes to like concerts. Are these your personal concerts?
Yeah.
See, my thing is this. I think performance is like, and Joe Rogan has said this before too, and I agree with this.
This feels like Joe Rogan, by the way.
It's probably because of the microphones. So
he's a cool guy.
He is.
Even though he doesn't know me, I don't know him, but
not yet.
He's a cool guy. Not yet.
After
this interview, damn it, he's going to be
maybe.
Joe,
maybe,
you hear
maybe.
this? If you're listening to this, give me a ring. My number is what were we saying?
So performance is essentially a live hypnosis. That's what Joe was saying. So it's just like paraphrasing out of that to like what I know about performance, especially when it comes to DJing. They're not coming, like your audience is not coming there to give suggestions to please them. It's just almost as if you're grabbing them by their collar and you're telling them, this is what you're hearing tonight. Then you push them back and you tell them to just sit down and behave, but they enjoy it. For lack of better terms, it's just like, I don't know. When I approach my performances, I do my best to think about it like a Tyson fight. It's just quick, dirty, and it's gonna hit you hard. You know, and when I do it that way, what I'm ultimately doing is just maintaining their attention span. We have very short attention spans, especially now.
Oh my God, it gets harder and harder.
So
thank you, TikTok.
Exactly. So I try my best to like divert their bad attention span and mine too to fit best in a performance atmosphere.
And it takes a certain amount of internal confidence, and that's a bit of a deficiency of mine because I'm very reactive and responsive to other people, their facial expressions, so on and so forth. I don't like take it so personally, but I'm reactive in that I want to play to please.
And you can't not see that. You can't not see the frown, like, or somebody doing this, or
it's frustrating. Well, it doesn't happen too often. I'm generally pretty sensitive, but like, it's frustrating when like people aren't rude, but people are like a certain level of rudeness is like turning your back to like standing right in front of a musician or just like schmoozing like right in front of them. I don't know. I'm mixing and matching like different types of performance situations. If you're on a big stage, like when I'm doing a show at like Master Theater, lights and stuff everywhere, I'll just dance my ass off and I don't really care what people think because like they're sitting there in the seats. It's like they're watching a movie. You don't even have to like impress anybody because they're sort of like you sort of like earned it being there on that stage. If it's a smaller venue, it's a little more pressure.
Right.
It's kind of why I don't like doing the small venues.
I think you know what it is. Intimacy as a musician for me is probably the most difficult thing about small performances. Like if I'm doing like a dinner of 2 or 4 and those 4 people are just sitting there staring at you.
That's uncomfortable.
Those are the hardest events for me to do.
Yeah, because it's like they expect you to play longer. It's like if you do a show, like a club type thing, it's like, okay, 30 minutes and then you're off. And then like there's, you know, whatever, 100, 150 people in the room. It's less stressful. 1 or 2. I try not to take those gigs too often, but you can't always control it.
See, and I think the toughest part about it is that there's no place to hide.
In terms of when you're in that scenario?
Right. So if I'm playing in front of 15,000 and it's a huge stage, I can hide.
I have not been to 15,000 yet. Hopefully soon.
What's the biggest
I would say
gap?
Maybe like 10.
Oh no, you're still there. It's still there. It's still the same ballpark.
Another 5K. It's a lot of people.
Yeah, you're still there. But it's just like I can hide behind the fact that the stage is so big that I can now move. In a space where it's just intimate for people, there's nowhere for me to go. Even if you close your eyes, you can feel everybody like just right up on you. Yeah. You can do your best to try to get lost in the music, but those other feelings essentially drown out your ability to just focus on the music.
Have you considered saying no to all the little like romantic events and just focus on the like I only accept larger like productions or concerts, that type of thing? Has the thought crossed your mind?
It has. Because honestly, those events don't really represent me the best.
What, the big concerts?
No, the smaller intimate events.
Right.
You know, a big part of what I do is the fact that I can move a large group of people. Not to say that the 2 aren't moved or the 4 aren't moved, but the best results come with this kind of formula. Stage, X amount of people, DJ, whatever. That's where I do the best, you know? So I always want to give people the best possible product. So depending on what they want for these small intimate dinners, there's a chance that I may like do it, but there's also a chance that I might turn it down for that reason. Because I already know that's not the space for the best possible product. Yeah. Everything that you see of me is in, you know, the best form of it, you know? Live performance videos, like cover videos, those are all best case scenarios, you know? So if you bring it to a small event, you're downscaling it.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, people pay less attention. They're much more interested in the performance when the setting is conducive to the performance.
I agree.
So, which is why you have all sorts of crappy artists out there with the ideal performance venue and setting, and people are like, "Wow!" But they're literally doing nothing. They're flipping eggs behind the
pretty much
the booth. You see that SNL on that one? That's oh my god! If you didn't, I got to send you the link.
Please send me. I'm not an SNL fan.
Oh my god!
The only thing about SNL that I love is just Keenan. Keenan legit. The best part about SNL are the gifts that come out of Keenan's facial expressions.
Yeah.
That's to me. That's it. He
Well, it's all about. It's all in the facial expressions. that's where the humor is.
Exactly.
Will Ferrell. I mean, guy's hilarious.
Jesus Christ. But anyway, Asher, do you have anything new coming out? Any new projects or anything?
Atlantis. So Atlantis just came out. That's a song I'm really proud of.
Mhm.
It's an original production that and I did a little bit of fan fundraising, and the music video shot out in Maui, Hawaii. Had a blast out there, just like kind of showing the scenery, but really the underlying vibe behind the song was pretty much the story of my life for the last couple of decades.
Mm-hmm.
The ups and downs, and sort of like kind of rolling with the punches. There's a lot of depth behind the song. It is instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
But my life sort of sparked that song. And that's something I want to kind of welcome listeners to check out if they haven't already. And I am in the middle of 2 collaborations, one with an artist who's Los Angeles, another one a vocalist. Here we go. After we were just talking about how important instrumentalists are, this is a way to branch out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've worked with another vocalist, I don't know, Midwest, amazing singer, on a vocal version of Gratitude, which is my instrumental original. Check it out on Spotify, iTunes. And she's super picky, which is good because it means the product's gonna be good. Like, I'm ready for it to just go out now, but she's like, we're going back and forth. Like, hey, how do we make this even better? So yeah, long story short, I'm doing some collabs. I'm always interested in collabs. And I'm pretty much pumping out like a single a month or so, in between all the performances, which is pretty exhausting.
That's beautiful.
Frankly,
that's actually beautiful. A project a month.
It's real hard.
I know it is.
It's not exactly what I want, but the listeners want. They get real short attention spans,
Mm-hmm.
and they want more. They always want more, and so
You see, and I think that's beautiful. The fact that like we're polar opposites in that sense.
you do less. You focus.
I do way less. Like after this, I'm gonna show you a song or two if you have time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just don't believe in keeping up with them. I think a major part for me of what makes the songs that I write beautiful and really listenable is the fact that I have the ability to relate. I can't relate if I'm not living. So it's just like my life and my experiences aren't necessarily conducive to the wants and needs to a fan. Like no offense, but it's just like I want to make sure that like what I'm putting out thoroughly represents me.
Yeah, and I got hats off to you. That is, I respect that. So the counter argument is, and I don't think you should necessarily change that. For me, what goes on in my head is, I got a lot of music I want to produce. I got a lot of just clients, promoters, people that like give me ideas, and I see that there are different types, walks of life, listeners that want to hear different types of music, and I want to show them my range. I want to show them like, okay, people that are like only listening to bluegrass. I don't want to feed them EDM classical. Like, they don't want to hear that.
Right.
But they want to hear me play the violin. They like my live stream. So it's like, I want to make a song for them. And there are like a ton of people who listen to Bollywood, and then many of them are clients of mine. They love to just fly me different places. And so I don't want to neglect that either. Like, they want to just hear Bollywood. So I try to produce, like, Ratan Lambian is a song I just released last month. I want them to hear that. I want them to know that like I'm connected with them, and I don't want to like kind of lose them. And I think in the process of them listening to Ratan Lambian, they'll listen to Atlantis, which I'm really passionate about. I'm not really so passionate about Ratan Lambian. So that's where I'm coming from. That's why I do what I do.
It's just so cool.
Latinos, Israelis, like this huge range of listeners.
Yeah, there's a lot of music to create, especially with our instrument, because our instrument can pretty much cross over to any genre, really.
Exactly, and
anything.
That's an advantage we have.
Exactly. We can do.
That's how we show our range. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so interesting to me, man. Like how, although we all play the same instrument, we all have different views and different flavors and different takes and everything. And I think that's the beautiful part about the networking aspect of.
You learn something new.
Something really, really new.
Yeah.
Really new.
Yeah. I always think like, oh yeah, everybody thinks like me, and it's like then I start talking to other folks, and I've probably spoken with a ton of producers this past month just through interviews alone. It's like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. this is fascinating. Opens up my mind.
And it's so weird because that idea of just like playing every genre. Have I thought about that? I'm like, yeah, I have. But now speaking to you about it, I have new information on it, you know? So
and go for it. You know, it might make you happy. It might piss you off. I don't know. Like, I'll tell you the part that will pisses me off. Is just always chasing like a new kind of song or a new whatever. Like, there's something beautiful about it, but there's also something like frustrating about, well, I have all these other songs on the shelf here. Why don't you listen to them? Mm-hmm. They want this, that, the other thing. And it's a struggle. It's an internal struggle for me.
And I think I hit that point when I was putting out content every day. Mm-hmm. Every single day. I literally called it Daily Dose. I don't know how. Wait, we didn't even talk about this. How did you even like discover me? Like, cause you found me, Asher. I
know.
And that's even interesting to me too.
You do some really cool stuff. I mean,
thank you.
First of all, DJ Violin, we're cut from the same cloth in that regard. Mm-hmm. And there's so many violinists I've like tried to convince to do it, and they're like, I don't really have time, or they just kind of want to stick to, just ensembles, and like I'm saying, people that are capable of making that transition, that shift. Mm. It's like, to me, it doesn't seem too hard. Just like you learn to mix, but it is hard for a lot of musicians.
It is difficult.
It is difficult, and I've been doing it for a while, and I guess you've been doing it for a while, so. And it's necessary that we do it, considering the context of like the events, the range of events that we do. And not everybody wants to hear just violin. Some people, and it gives us a break, frankly. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to have. Like when you're doing an event, it's a lot to just always be in the spotlight as a violinist. And people, again, they have short attention spans. But if you're bringing them, if you're live mixing, you're like impressing that corner of the room, and then that corner of the room wants to just hear the violin, and then it's something really awesome about it.
It gives you the range to call audibles. So it's like if they're DJing and playing violin, if you see like there is a gap that you can fill, if you have the ability to change up your backing tracks on demand,
yeah,
you essentially have the power to do whatever you want during that performance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know?
So why did you start doing it? It's probably the same answer as I have.
I have a running joke with clients that I run into.
Like, what was the impetus? Like, what was it that...
I'll tell you. Yeah. I'll tell you. The joke is this. Everybody that sees me perform, they always come up to me. They say stuff like, oh, you probably love the violin. I'm just like, it's okay. But I've been DJing the same amount of time I've been playing the violin. Mm-hmm. So DJing is my wife. The violin is like my baby mom's. Mm-hmm. That gets on my goddamn nerves every single day, but she's not going nowhere.
Oh, the violin is?
The violin is not going anywhere. That's my baby mom's. DJing is my wife. Like, I love DJing to death.
That's interesting. I didn't see it. I didn't think that you saw it that way.
Well,
that's your real passion.
I mean, the music is the real passion, period. Uh-huh. I just think that I enjoy DJing more because of the fact that I can call audibles. Because I don't have to stick to a script. Mm. You know, I don't have to rehearse so intense. Mm-hmm. It's more like prep work, just making sure everything is aligned properly. You know where to find everything, making sure your loops are correct. And then the beauty of DJing is when you get in front of people. Mm. Now with all that prep work, how are you now going to make these decisions to move these people? Mm. Violin is more so like you're not only prepping, but you're practicing and you're committing to one thing.
It requires
generally speaking
a lot of focus and a lot of
right. So it's just like I've been at performances where I've prepped. I had like 4 or 5 songs set up, and maybe 2 or 3 out of those 4 or 5 didn't necessarily work the way I anticipated them to. But I have to now commit to it. That's not on the DJ side though. If it's not working, you just get out of it.
That being said, the bigger the repertoire you have, the easier it is literally just to improv your way through a song. Through a predictable chord progression.
Well, it's not the chord progression itself, because I play behind like a lot of backing tracks. So if I have a 5-minute performance, I'm probably playing like 6 or 7 songs within that 5-minute performance. So it's just like, aside from the repertoire, it's just the way you need 2 hands to play the instrument. So if I'm really paying attention to the audience and I see I have to make a change, to make that change, it's now a major effort. I got to put the instrument down. Type this up real quick. There's the song. Or get into the next song, pick up the instrument again, and then go. It's not like that with DJing. It's just like you see, okay, I can go here. on to the next.
Yeah.
It's quicker. So with it being quicker, you have a higher propensity to maintain the energy that you want in the room.
Yeah.
That's how I
sure.
see it.
For sure. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I mean, everything just kind of depends on where the audience is at in terms of their expectation. Like you can give them the same high as you can with DJing as you can with violin, just depending on what their expectations are. And if you're in a room where people have different expectations, you got to do both.
I think so.
Otherwise, well, yeah, you got to do
really don't
DJ
think so.
and violin. That's why the violinist is like out there for 10 minutes and the DJ is out there for
Ever.
Yeah. Especially the DJs that book me, they're like, okay, you just go out there for like 5-10 minutes, just like show your thing. I mean, not everyone, but some of them are that way because they find it irritating.
Think so? It can.
Some of them.
Honestly, it can.
One of the reasons why I went off to DJing myself, because
Yeah.
I was like, well, why do I need to be an irritating appendage to you?
Right.
I'd rather
Right.
just like make it work. Put it down when I want to put it down.
Yeah. Listen, man, it can get a little sticky sometimes.
Well, when some instrumentalists, they don't stop playing, so I totally get it. Like I've worked with I've done like dueling violin performances, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you ever dabbled in that. With like really talented musicians, but like a couple of them are just, they don't stop playing, and it's like you gotta stop. Like it's getting annoying even for me, and I'm a musician.
You gotta let it breathe. And you
Space.
know what's funny is too, I tell people that I'm more so of an entertainer before I'm a violinist or a DJ. And the entertainer side of me, more so just reading crowds, reading people.
Well,
You
that's
know?
what a DJ is essentially.
That's all they're
called
doing.
upon to do.
Yeah, that's your job. You make judgment calls based on what you think you see.
Read a crowd, yeah.
And everybody can't do it.
It's true. It also kind of helps to have a database online. Like you're not going to have a database of 1 million songs. I don't know if you have this, but to have all these requests, you can literally keep. It's a difference between making and breaking, in my opinion, a dance set. If we're talking about that context. Hey, do you have this song? Like we didn't I read them wrong. They want to hear whatever single from Drake. Like, oh yeah, I didn't have that in my catalog. I'm going to go online and find it.
It happens.
So I find that's very helpful for me.
It happens. And you know, even the toughest part is making the adjustments. What you're referring to me is just making those adjustments when you do or do not have a song, you know? And even if you don't have it, it's just like, can you still rock a crowd that wants to hear this one song, but you don't have it? I know I can. I figured it out. And the best way for me to do that is just like, if you don't have it, if that's my fault, it's on me. But if you don't have it because you just didn't know, you honestly just didn't know, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to just move on. I can't do anything about that. I'll have it for next time.
I'm assuming you tend to just like pre-download all your music in advance.
For the most part, yes. Especially for like when it comes to like DJing, a lot of your work is all prep work. I'll say like 80% of your work is all prep.
Oh, okay. A few minutes.
Okay. what time?
No, I gotta get to the next one at like 3:45.
Okay,
so like a couple minutes, we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
All right, cool.
So I can schmooze with you all day, man. Don't get me wrong.
Listen, man, this is fun, man.
Yeah.
So we could do like another. Yeah. What would you say, like 3 minutes or something?
Yeah,
like that?
sure.
You get up out of here, man. But yeah, man. Listen, I love these conversations.
Yeah,
man.
no, there's a lot to talk about.
And it's crazy within this short amount of time. Like, there's a lot that we can relate to. A lot to like really compare notes to, disagree on.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like I do thoroughly enjoy these conversations. You know?
Likewise. It's a pleasure.
So I definitely took a listen to some of your songs and everything. I'm like, Asher is dope.
Thank you, sir.
He's dope.
I appreciate that.
Yes, man.
I'm deeply touched.
Listen, man. So just keep shooting, keep pushing, and whatever you need my help on, bro, you know I'm here to help.
I appreciate that. Likewise.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me here.
No problem. So give them your Instagram, your Twitter, all of your social media and everything. Where can they find you?
So simplest way to find me is Asher Laub. I'm probably the only Asher Laub in the country as far as I've seen. So asherlaub.com, Asher Laub on Instagram, Asher Laub on Twitter, Asher Laub Music on Facebook. You can find me on all major platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Asher Laub, and YouTube. Just look Asher Laub. You get the point, guys.
That's that. All right, guys, we are out of here. Matt Violinist Podcast. Till next time.
All right.